Chapter 1. Why is this immortal so happy? Anlin stood at the top of a high-rise building, with a noisy wind blowing in his face. He looked behind him, where a group of menacing-looking men was slowly closing in. He, you little brat. This time let's see how you can escape. Do you have the guts to fly into the sky? The leader of the burly men held an iron rod, his face contorted with cruelty. Anlin knew he had no chance of escaping now, but the thought of the consequences of being captured made his body tremble. The kind of life he was facing was simply inhumane. What should I do? What should I do? If only I could fly. Anlin thought, and then a strong gust of wind appeared between heaven and earth, lifting his body. Ha! Anlin was astonished. He was actually flying, carried by the wind. Damn! Can he really fly? The leader of the burly men saw this scene and was left dumbfounded. In front of the crowd, Anlin was carried away by the hurricane, flying off the rooftop. Then, as the wind dissipated, he began a free fall. Oh, help! The howling wind and the rapid descent-induced weightlessness scared Anlin into screaming. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Anlin's mind was filled with constant cries for help and despair. The fear of impending death enveloped his entire body, causing every part of him to tremble uncontrollably. On the rooftop, the burly man looked bewildered as he watched Anlin freefall. He then turned to the others and slowly said, that kid didn't jump off the building because I forced him to. The culprit is the wind. You all need to testify for me. The people behind him were also dumbfounded, as the wind's arrival was too bizarre. Would anyone believe their story? They couldn't even believe it themselves, having witnessed it firsthand. Anlin, looking down at the approaching ground in despair, closed his eyes. He never expected his life to end so miserably. At that moment, a mysterious white light sphere suddenly appeared and enveloped his entire body. The terrifying sensation of extreme weightlessness hit him at the same time. Then he felt as if he were on a roller coaster, plummeting to the bottom, then making an arc and flying back into the sky. Oh! Anlin screamed again as his body was propelled into the sky and then landed back on the rooftop. The intense sensations of weight and weightlessness, along with the near-death experience, left him feeling dizzy and, unfortunately, vomiting. Hey, young man, are you feeling better? Just then, a faint voice reached Anlin's ears. He looked up to find an elderly man with a kind and loving expression. Behind the elderly man, the menacing men who had come to capture Anlin were all lying unconscious on the ground. The old man had white hair, an air of wisdom and serenity, and was surrounded by a golden aura, giving him a holy and immaculate appearance. Seeing this scene, Anlin's entire body shivered, and countless scenes flooded his mind. They were scenes from novels, anime, and movies. Wasn't this moment the very beginning of those fantastical adventures? Thud! Anlin kowtowed deeply, tears welling up in his eyes. He said, Immortal, thank you for saving me. The old man Anlin referred to as an immortal gently stroked his white beard and smiled. He said, I made a slight mistake with the spell just now, which frightened the young friend here. By the way, why were this group of people chasing you? Anlin was momentarily puzzled. The wind was caused by the immortal spell. Regardless, the immortal had saved him. Anlin replied, the thing is, after my mother passed away, my father developed a gambling addiction. He lost our house and racked up millions in gambling debts that he couldn't pay. Then he ran away, leaving me to deal with the debt collectors. They said I had to repay my father's debt, which was in the millions. My girlfriend, upon hearing about my debts, left without a word. I was captured by the debt collectors and forced to do hard labor. They said I couldn't leave until my father repaid the debt. That kind of labor was inhumane, and I couldn't take it any longer. So I attempted to escape, which led to the events you witnessed earlier. Anlin poured out his story, tears and snot flowing freely. His life seemed incredibly bleak, a lifetime of repaying debts hardly different from a salted fish. The immortal listened to Anlin's tale with a sympathetic expression in his eyes. He then spoke, Young man, your life has been quite unfortunate. Here's an idea. Our encounter today is no coincidence, and I can see you have tremendous potential. How about I gift you a system to help you change your life? Anlin shivered at these words. He thought that merely meeting an immortal was already a stroke of great luck, but now the immortal was generously offering him a system upon their first meeting. Immortal sir, you're really too kind to me. I don't know how to repay your kindness, Anlin said with teary eyes, profoundly moved. The immortal smiled kindly and held his palm upwards. A pristine white light sphere appeared in his hand. Young man, come here and hold this light sphere in your hand, the immortal instructed Anlin. Eagerly, Anlin took hold of the light sphere. As he held it, he felt a warm, gentle flow of energy radiating from it. Activate system transfer, the immortal intoned. As the words left the immortal's lips, the light from the white sphere intensified. It was then that the immortal said to Anlin, young man, quickly take an oath to accept this war god system and swear not to part with it in your lifetime. War god system. What a powerful name. However, this oath sounded remarkably similar to a wedding vow. Without dwelling on it too much, Anlin hurriedly declared, I swear to accept the war god system and never part with it in my lifetime. As soon as Anlin completed his oath, the light sphere made a swooshing sound and directly merged into his body, becoming one with him. Subsequently, a voice echoed in his mind, saying, host identified as having the heavenly darkness constitution. Qualifications met. System integration initiated. Anlin was overwhelmed with emotion, almost to the point of tears. He had thought his life was bleak, but at this moment, he had gained an overpowered system to change his fate. The immortal, too, was overwhelmed with emotion. He was so moved that he had already burst into tears. He gazed up at the sky, tears streaming down his face, and he knelt on the ground, laughing and crying. Ha ha ha, you finally left me, and I finally obtained a new lease on life. Immortal sir, what's wrong? Are you okay? Anlin asked, concerned when he saw the strange behavior of the elderly man. The immortal regained his composure, wiped away his tears, and realized he had acted strangely. I'm fine. I just recalled some painful memories. Young man, after obtaining the system, you must work hard, the immortal advised, with a weighty tone. Anlin nodded vigorously. I will. Then, would you like to go to a school for cultivation? I know of a relatively good one, the immortal continued. Go to a school for cultivation? Only a fool would refuse. Anlin eagerly replied, yes, I'd love to go. The immortal smiled in relief and took out a golden paper from his robe, then handed it to Anlin. He said, this is my recommendation letter. With this, you can study at the Cultivation Union University and embark on your cultivation journey officially. Anlin was astonished. It seemed that the path of cultivation, even for someone as proud as Immortal Dragon, had been paved for him. He gratefully accepted the recommendation letter, looking up at the immortal. May I know your name, Immortal? Names. Perhaps it's better not to reveal it, the immortal said, gently patting Anlin's head, a compassionate expression on his face. I must take my leave. Goodbye, young man. The immortal waved to bid farewell and then soared into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Farewell, Immortal. Anlin bowed to the sky in gratitude. The sound of the immortal's laughter echoed from above, extraordinarily cheerful and uninhibited, as if he had released a lifetime of grievances. Why was the immortal so overjoyed? It felt like he was happier than me. Anlin scratched his head, utterly bewildered. At that moment, a melodious female voice echoed in Anlin's consciousness, saying, hello. The voice was exquisite and angelic, making Anlin instantly alert. Could this be the system's voice? He wondered. Just then, an interface appeared in his mind. It was predominantly gray with a few words displayed at the top. The war god system will activate upon entering the primordial continent. The primordial continent? What on earth was that? Anlin thought, remembering the recommendation letter given to him by the immortal. Filled with anticipation, He unfolded the golden paper in his hand. To his surprise, the golden paper was completely blank, with just a slightly indented handprint in the center. Anlin was puzzled but decided to place his hand over the handprint on the paper, aligning it precisely with the indent. Suddenly, the paper emitted a brilliant golden light, taking him by surprise. Oh! Anlin felt himself spinning, and his vision shifted from darkness to brightness. He found himself suspended in mid-air, free-falling once again. Experiencing the sensation of falling from a great height once more, Anlin couldn't help but scream, even though he had been through it before. With a loud crash, he hit the ground hard, but the golden light surrounding him acted as a cushion, saving him from serious injury. Is this some kind of teleportation technique? It's way too rough. Anlin grumbled, lying on the ground, dissatisfied. Struggling to get back on his feet, he wanted to see where he had landed. What he witnessed was an unforgettable sight. Two immense, 100-foot-tall white dragon pillars stood in the sky, with inscriptions in an enigmatic script on their plaques. Beyond the gate, there were countless palaces stretching as far as the eye could see. Colorful clouds floated around the palaces, and various mythical beasts soared through the heavens, creating a magnificent and grandiose scene of the immortal realm. Anlin stood in place, a look of sheer amazement on his face. So, this world truly had an immortal realm. I've arrived in the immortal realm, Anlin muttered, trying to calm his emotions and collect himself. After a while, he noticed a woman in Taoist robes approaching and hurried to greet her to learn more about his situation. Hello, Sister Immortal, Anlin waved at the woman. The beautiful woman in Taoist robes, upon seeing Anlin waving at her, approached him. Excited, Anlin asked, Beautiful immortal sister, could you please tell me where this place is? I'm new here and not quite familiar with this place yet. Hearing his words, the woman's expression became somewhat peculiar, and she said, Jili Guru? What? What are you saying? Anlin was puzzled. The woman gave him the same bewildered look and said, Jili Guru wa li Jili. At that moment, Anlin was utterly perplexed. What on earth was she saying? A dreadful suspicion gradually formed in his mind. Immortal sister, can you speak Mandarin? He asked, his eyes welling up with tears. Guru guru wa ji ji ji, the beautiful woman said, hands on her hips, appearing somewhat annoyed. It was clear that there was a language barrier. Anlin couldn't understand her at all. This wasn't supposed to happen. According to what he knew from novels, everyone spoke Mandarin everywhere. Anlin found himself utterly bewildered. He stood there with vacant eyes, with only one thought in his mind. What's happening? This is completely different from what the novels described. Everyone should be speaking Mandarin, right? In the end, Anlin started crying. If he couldn't understand the language, how was he going to cultivate as an immortal? Others might start as scrap materials, but he was starting as an intellectual disability. He was utterly baffled, frustrated, and feeling lost in a world he couldn't understand.